Hello, and welcome to the Smile Revolution with me, Princess Wow. We raise conscious awareness to the healing power of a genuine smile. It's actually a real revolution here. Okay, so, which I started 2005. Okay, so this is my 196th show since the pandemic started. So it's been a while. Anyway, I'm a former radio show host too. So I was doing interviews before, and I was doing different shows during the pandemic to help people smile. So anyway, let's see who's there. Oh, there's Maureen. Hello. Hi, good to see you. Anyway, thanks for coming live. Well, anyway, today is Martin Luther King Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, as you know, if you're watching live. And the reason why tonight's show goes with today's national holiday is that Pete Seeger and Roland marched down in the South with Reverend Frederick Douglass Kirkpatrick, who worked with Martin Luther King Jr. And so they were marching in the late 68, 69, and 70 down south. It was very dangerous after he was shot. And so I felt like it went with tonight's show. And Leonard Peltier, if you don't know who he is, we talk about it in the interview, a Native American who's been in jail since the late 70s, he wasn't pardoned by Biden today, or yesterday, I mean, but he has clemency, which means he's able to go home, but he's on house arrest, and he's still considered guilty. But at least he's home after almost 50 years in jail. And we're going to talk about it in the show. And I want to share a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. Love is the greatest force in the universe. It's the heartbeat of the moral cosmos. He who loves is a participant in the being of God. And I just want to say that next week, David Amram's going to be on my show. And he introduced Roland to Bob Dylan. And he's a renowned composer and multi-instrumentalist. And he's 94 and still going strong. So anyway, so that's next week's show. And who else is here? Let's see. Oh, yeah, thanks. Yes, of course. And Nancy, hi Nancy, thanks for coming. I always appreciate when some people come live, and if they don't comment or they're just watching, thank you for watching live. And I know more people watch and replay. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to bring Roland on. Okay, wait a second. Okay. Hi, Roland.
Hey, how you doing? All right.
Good.
Good.
Anyway,
all right.
Yeah, it's really good to see you.
Oh, it's good to see you.
Yeah, you're over in North Dakota on a reservation?
Yeah, I'm on the Turtle Mountain Reservation next to Canada up in North Dakota.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great. Yeah. It's cold up there, huh?
Freezing. Yeah.
It's freezing. Well, it's cold here too in New York.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, but it's colder there, I know. You're always much colder there.
Yeah.
But anyway, we talk on the phone a lot, but it's like different seeing. It's good to see. I haven't seen you in a while though. So anyway, I always like to say in my interviews how we met. So we met in 2006 in Woodstock.
In Woodstock.
At Oriole 9 restaurant in line. And I always seem to meet people because of my hats.
Okay.
So, right. So your friend, we don't have to get into name, and your friend and his kids, the kids liked my hat.
Yeah. They were afraid to say something to you.
They were shy.
I said something to you. That's what happened.
Yeah, and I had a radio show for the Smile Revolution.
Yeah.
At the time. And I told you about what I was doing.
In Kingston, New York?
Huh?
In Kingston, New York?
Yeah, the radio show. Yeah, at Kingston Radio for the Smile Revolution.
Yeah.
And I told you what I was doing, and you said to me, you deserve help.
Yeah.
And you said, I'm going to get Richie Havens and Pete Seeger on your show.
Yeah.
And that's what started our relationship.
Yes.
Had the radio show. And so anyway, so thank you
Uh-huh.
for all your help over the years and starting off with helping. And you did get them on. And then I started promoting your music.
Yeah.
And then you got Arlo Guthrie and Tom Pacheco, and you got other friends of yours on my show too. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Richie, he always had a beautiful smile.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. So you are one of the few people who were close friends with, well, Pete Seeger, you were very close with and part of the family for like 4 decades.
Yes.
At least. And also you were a personal friend of Bob Dylan's.
Yep. We knew, yeah.
And you, yeah. So you met, how did you meet him?
Who, Bob or Pete?
Bob.
Oh, Bob. What had happened was that I went to I had been well, there's a lot of things, but
All right. So you were let's just talk real quickly. You're a folk singer and songwriter.
yeah, I'm
And
a
you
folk songwriter.
hitchhiked to New York to meet Pete, right?
Yeah.
Because you grew up on Pete Seeger music.
Yes,
It
and
was
Bob
short.
Dylan music too, actually.
You were into Bob's music too?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I knew all of Bob's songs.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, okay. And Pete's too. Okay. So so you can just say a little bit about how you ended up with actually meeting Pete and Bob, actually.
Well, with Bob, he found out that I was working with John Hammond Sr., who found Bob Dylan. He was a producer from Columbia Records, and he was very interested in me. And the same thing with Pete. They had found out that the family found out that I was working with John Hammond Sr. And
He did a demo of your music.
they did a demo of me, and then they found out I was a draft dodger, a Vietnam draft dodger. I refused to fight in Vietnam, and the military was looking for me. So that kind of backed things up.
Right. That's why you could. They wanted to sign you, but you couldn't because you were.
But I did sign to Frank Music, and
right.
Yeah, and publishing company, and they're pretty big. They did all the Broadway shows and everything, and they signed Loudon Wainwright and Tom Waits, all of us at the same day, on the same time, and at the same.
That's really cool.
Mel Kramer did.
Yeah. Really great. Yes, I know you haven't seen the movie, A Complete Unknown, which doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, I know we're not going to talk about the movie because you haven't seen it. However,
I can say I probably will see it soon because I think Katama did say something about it. They did a good job for Pete.
Well, Katama, just so my audience knows, is Pete Seeger's grandson.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so
specify who these people are. Okay.
Yeah, I usually don't like to see Hollywood movies, that don't consult with people because they're just basically for the monies and for the.
Yeah, but they did. No, they did. Dylan, Jeff, his manager. You know who Jeff's his manager. He was.
Okay.
He produced. He was one of the producers, I believe. I don't quote me on that. I think he was involved somehow, and I think anyway, he might have been the producer. I'm not sure, but anyway, but Bob Dylan did sign off on it, so he did.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is that they didn't do it on the side of Pete.
All right. Well, the point is that it's
that's really very, very important because the whole thing was between those two. Because I was the one in between. I was trying to unite them back together.
Right. I know.
And we almost got close with Leonard Peltier. The concert there.
Right.
We almost got very close. Yeah. And because I wrote the letter, and then Pete signed it, and we sent it to Dylan.
And Jeff,
Dylan got back to
manager.
Us with John Shear, the famous promoter, music.
Right.
Yeah, and Bob thanked us for that.
Oh, he did get the letter.
Yeah, absolutely.
He did.
I still have a copy of the letter. I have a copy of the letter still.
Oh, and he did get back to you, but back to Pete. He did.
Yeah, and Jeff sent some information to
John Shear.
John and us. Yeah.
Oh, so he did. Okay, but he didn't. say yes. He wouldn't do the
But
concert
he didn't want to get. See, the problem was Bob Dylan didn't want to get into politics anymore. He was,
because of Leonard Peltier. Yeah.
but he, the beginning of what when I basically told Bob that, Bob, you jumped on Pete Seeger's bandwagon and then you jumped off once you got famous. And everybody in Allen Ginsberg's apartment just freaked out. And Bob smiled and he agreed with me and hugged me because he didn't want to anymore get into politics. He just he just didn't want to be in it anymore. And it broke Pete and Toshi's heart. They really, when I first came, they didn't trust me, Pete and Toshi, but later on, when they found out that I was at St. Vincent's orphanage and they called, and then they found out that I knew all of, Pete's songs, and they found, all this stuff. It was just like, it was very, very, they put, and then they found out that I told Bob, what I thought, in front, so, but Bob and I had a lot of good conversations, about.
All right. So when did you meet Bob?
Oh, I think 68, 69.
So he was already really famous. Wait, he was already famous then, yeah.
Yeah, he was like the king.
65, yeah.
King of rock and roll. And I met him in Allen Ginsberg's apartment and on Avenue C and 13th Street.
Okay.
And that's when and Bob sang some songs for us. He sang one on Angela Davis, but I says, Angela Davis ain't going to believe you. Not on that song. Nobody really trusts you. I told Bob, when it comes to politics anymore, you're out, and he really liked that actually, because I told him that. And I think that's what, why he really ended up liking me. And we had a lot of good conversations and friends. We sat down, kettle of fish or different places. We'd sit down and he was very obsessed with songwriting. He knew a lot of things about songwriting. Like I told him about a book that it was a pink book about the 10 greatest songwriters in the world. They interviewed. He knew the book immediately. He jumped. We started laughing, and unfortunately, I loaned it to David, but David's never been able to find it.
David Amram.
Yeah, but we had David. He wrote this song, David Amram.
Yeah,
and I ran into Bob and I said, Bob, you got to hear this song that David Amram wrote. And then he said, he mentioned the name. I said, yeah, I know. He had it in the back of his pocket. Bob had the song in the back of his pocket and pulled it out. We started talking about David Amram's song. It was just really, really fascinating. And I think David put it in a book, what the song was, his book. But great, So, but Bob, if people look at the movie, he was 100% everything. His whole life, he sacrificed his whole life into songwriting after songwriting after song, and that was his whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So wait. So I thought you met. So I'm going to be interviewing David Amram next. Now David and you were good friends since what, like 68?
Oh yeah.
You met David.
I met David. I think 68, 69 also.
Okay. Yeah. So I thought you met Bob from David.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
From David. Yeah.
You met him from David, right?
Yeah, David. One morning, I went to see David, and he called, I think, Allen Ginsberg.
Yeah.
And Bob was there, and apparently Bob knew that I was working with John Hammond Sr.
Okay.
And he wanted to meet me. And,
okay.
Okay. Well, we'll come over. So we went over there. That's how it started.
Oh, okay. Okay. And that was 68 or 69.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, 60.
Around there.
Yeah.
Okay. And just so people who may not.
And then when we got there, amazingly, Allen Ginsberg was talking to Jack Kerouac in Florida. And when he got off the phone, he was like really upset. He was like, do you know what the hippie means? And because Jack Kerouac and him coined phrase that word, hippie. And what it meant was he was telling Bob and I and everybody that what it meant was that if you're hip to the corruption of the government, then you're a hippie. So that's what it really means. But a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah. Okay. So Richie Havens told me that you were like the center of the whole scene in Greenwich Village back then. That's what he told me.
Everywhere in Woodstock too.
Okay, okay,
And the
because you were with
Clearwater. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
because of John Havens Sr. in Columbia, right?
No, no, because
Yeah.
of
Why was that?
I knew Bob and Pete both, and I'd met John Lennon. I'd met a lot of people,
Okay.
but uh,
Oh, it's because you were friends with Bob and Pete?
yes,
That you
because
were so popular in the village?
yeah, I became very popular, and also I became very, very popular in uh, in Woodstock because Van
Right.
Morrison. I was with Van Morrison,
Right.
so it
Yeah,
was
so
like
you were back and forth. Yeah, between
numbers and numbers of people
yeah.
I was with, and
Oh,
it's just
okay.
like everybody assassinated, you know, on my life story. And when I said I was from St. Vincent's orphanage, they didn't believe me because everybody said they're from orphanages and they were poor and broke, and then you
Right.
find out they're
You were the
wealthy.
real deal. You were the
And
real deal.
so yeah, and I turned out I was shocked because Bob told me that actually. He
Oh,
told me
so
that a lot of people because he even did it,
no,
you
I
know.
know. Yeah.
And Izzy Young and David Amram. A lot of people called St. Vincent's to see if I really was real.
An
Pete Seeger
orphan. They
did,
really were an
and I
orphan.
was real, yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know that. All I did was I hitchhiked to New York City, and I didn't know. I had no idea, you know.
Right. And you still are a great singer, songwriter, and everything. So,
Yeah,
musician. So,
we're getting more
okay.
songs out. We're getting more songs out now. I'm in a recording studio now. I know how to record and everything, and we're going to get a lot of songs out this
No,
year and
that's
next.
great. I'm so glad, Roland. That's so
Yeah,
great. Yeah. Okay. Well, Your Eye of the Great Spirit is such a great album. And David Amram was just talking about. Every time I talk to him, he mentions that album that he's on your album.
yeah. Richie
Yeah.
Havens too was on it, and Pete
He was
Seeger
on it
was
too,
on it,
right? Yeah. I know. It's
and
great. I'm on
yeah,
it too.
of
Backup
course.
singer. I'm backup singer. Well, anyway, and we recorded it at Clubhouse in Rhinebeck. It was really great. So anyway, okay, so I think a lot of people want to know about like what was Bob like? I mean, like how long did you know him though? Like 68 to like what a few years, or how long were you like
I
friends?
knew
You were
about
friends
20 years, you know. So
20?
yeah,
You
it
really
was
did
like
know him that long?
60s.
I didn't know that. Huh?
Yeah, yeah, 70s, 80s. Yeah, oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
you knew him in the 80s? See, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I talked to. I we ran into each other at I think the bitter end, you know, and the bottom line. Several times we ran into each other in the 80s. He asked me to come on the bus with him. I said I didn't want to hang out with this crowd because they were
Okay.
so, you know, they were so
What?
crazy. You know,
Oh,
there are a lot of
oh,
crazy people.
really? Oh,
Oh yeah, I
okay.
didn't want to. I mean, a lot of people were, you know, wanted his attention and destined for fame and
And
all
also
that
with a
stuff.
lot of drugs, right?
Oh, drugs and drinking, party. See, it
And so
wasn't. They
you
weren't into
probably never
politics.
did any of that. So you never did any of that
Oh, I never did it. I was serious with Pete Seeger.
because
And I
he,
think that's what Bob liked about me because I was
so you
like,
were straight.
I was
It's
very
like,
straight, very clear, you know.
right. Yeah.
And but that's what he liked about me. He wanted to know what was going on with Pete, you know. And Pete, of course, wanted to know what was going on with Bob.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Oh yeah,
that.
yeah.
Oh, so you were like,
We were crossing paths there. Yeah.
oh, so I didn't know that. All right. Now, what's the story about when he hugged you at that event?
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
want to
What
talk
was
too much
that?
about.
Tell me about that.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, they had a problem with Phil Oakes at the Gaslight. I mean, not the Gaslight at the what's it? The Folk City. My fault.
Cook
It was at
City.
the Folk City and the new Folk City, and I think it was you know it was a big problem. I don't really want to talk about that problem,
Well,
but there was
I've talked about it. It's a public thing. It's in a couple of
it's a
Dylan's
scuffle.
books.
It was a scuffle, and, you know, and so I basically, I walked out with something that Phil had in his hand, and I didn't.
Okay.
I put it in the back of my pocket, and I walked out, and Then Bob came out and he said, why was I leaving? Could I play? Could I play some music up there on the stage? Because everybody was wanting to get up on the stage to impress Bob Dylan, except for me. And I said, Bob, you don't really know what's going on. You have no idea what's going on. You
Well,
have
Phil
no idea.
Oakes was very jealous of Bob.
Yes, and he wasn't invited for the second Rolling Thunder tour. I think that was they were celebrating that night on the second Rolling Thunder tour.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was the big celebration.
That's why Phil was really upset. He wasn't invited on the tour.
No, he wasn't invited. No. And what had happened was
he invited on the first tour?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He was on the first. Yeah.
Oh, he was.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's why he was like really upset.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and so what had happened was that I was invited on the first one too myself, but I didn't want to go in that mess,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But what had happened was that I came back and it was just it was very, very sad, the whole thing. And the next day I ran into
a lot of mental problems at that point.
The next day I ran into Phil and he said, why did you do that? Why did you do that? Why? I said, Phil, you need help. You really need help. So I gave him Pete Seeger's number and he called Pete and Pete told me, and when he called Pete, he wanted to stay with Pete, but Pete didn't. He said, no. He says, I got my family. I can't handle it, Phil.
I know.
And Pete told me that, and then that was it.
And then he killed himself. I know about that. I know.
And it was very sad. It was heartbreaking. And I think Pete regretted that.
Oh, yeah. No, he told me he did. I know.
Yeah.
I know he didn't help Phil with that. I know. It's sad.
Yeah. And
so it would have been too hard. I think it would have been too hard on Pete because Phil had a lot of mental problems at that point.
Yeah. But later on, at the Fell Forum below the Madison Square Garden, they were having a big party for Bob. And Bob saw me through the crowd and he ran through the crowd and he hugged me so tight he wouldn't let me go for about a minute. And a lot of photographers took pictures of that. And I knew what that was. It's okay. I said, it's okay. It's okay. Because he thanked me for that because he would have never, I don't think Bob would have ever made it through. Not that.
All right. So you're not telling people what it's, I'm going to say it because it's in the book. It's in 2 Bob Dylan books. I've already talked about it on another.
Richard Roland talked about it. Yeah.
All right. So I'll tell you.
Davis, I think Davis, was it, what's his name? Clinton, from
one of the top couple of the Bob Dylan biographies. Okay, so I'm going to say it because you can't say it like the way you're talking because nobody knows what you're talking. Nobody understands. So, what happened was Phil was having a lot of mental problems at this point, on and off in his life, but he did kill himself at the end. So he's having mental issues, and he was insanely jealous of Dylan's fame. And now I didn't understand.
I think he dressed as even Elvis Presley because he wanted to be so famous as Dylan, And he did a concert in Carnegie Hall.
Well, that was really weird when he got into that stage. All right. Well, anyway, the point is that he wanted to be more famous than he was. So he had a knife on him. He was carrying a knife, and he tried to. He was and Roland. You were there in the back of Folk City with what was with Dylan. Phil Oakes, you, was that it? Or was anybody else there?
A lot of people.
There were a lot of people there that in the back?
When that all happened?
Yeah.
It was a big scuffle. And he took, I think, Dylan's hat. I think that's what it was. Big scuffle. Everybody saw it.
Oh, I didn't know that. All right. So the point is he's trying to kill
basically, they had found weapons. They would, what do you call it? With, Carnegie Hall, they had found a hammer. They had found a knife. Buzzy Lenhart can confirm that. But Buzzy Lenhart
used to carry all that. Phil
used he knew the shape and everything. He knew the whole thing. He knew that I did. Yeah.
All right. So the point is that you saved Dylan's life because you grabbed the knife out of Phil's hand.
That's I don't. And
then you threw it in the garbage can, huh?
I threw it in the pizza garbage can, and then I came back for Toshiko and. They have it on film with Sam Shepard, with Toshiko and I, But
All right. So anyway, so it's public knowledge, Roland. It's written up in a few books.
it's it's heartbreaking for the family. I feel for Phil's.
For Phil's family.
Yeah, and it's just really, it was really heartbreaking to to
Yeah,
see.
because he was so mentally sick at that point.
Yeah, he was mentally, and I definitely tried my best, that.
Well, you
Help.
did. You say you grabbed the knife. So anyway, so that's what happened. All right.
No,
So
that's
Bob knew that's why he gave you that big hug, right?
yeah. I think I know that's what really he knew that he would have been gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he
I
had
mean,
heard all about it. He had heard all about it, but I didn't. I refused to talk to
oh,
him.
okay. So he heard. So other people, he didn't see it happening because you
No,
grabbed the
he didn't
knife.
see it happen. No,
He didn't see it, but he
no.
found out later.
Yeah.
So that's why he ran across the room and gave you that. Okay.
But that's why he ran outside of Folk City and and said that where you going? Where you going? I told
Okay.
Pete. I told Bob that you have no idea what's happening. It wasn't. You know,
Okay.
it really happened. It was very, very serious matter, and
Yeah.
it's just heartbreaking to see. And that's the reason why I didn't want to hang out with Dylan's crowd. I called him, Dylan's crowd. And
Okay.
and Joni Mitchell and I had a good talk about that, and art. Her and I talked about that, at the bitter end. We had lunch together,
Okay.
and the thing is very, very, it's just heartbreaking. The whole scene, you know.
All right. So yeah, his scene, Dylan's scene.
Oh, it's just with and Patty Smith, and all those people in the apartment and all that stuff. It was just like Peter Voloski. You had Gregory Corso. These are famous people.
Yeah, I know.
They're all in, and it's just like I didn't want to. I go to 10th Street and the church, with Allen Ginsberg and with the poetry. He had poetry, I think, every Wednesday night or something like that. It was
Right.
like a whole big scene, big.
But they were all drinking and doing drugs and everything, right?
Yeah,
Everybody.
it was a loss. It was a loss.
Well, because you
And
weren't drinking or doing drugs. So that
broke
was hard.
Toshi's and Pete's heart really to see all that, and that's why Toshi told me that if you hang out with good people, good things are going to happen to you, Roland. If you hang out with bad people, bad things are going to happen to you. And then she's right on that. I always followed that philosophy.
I know, right? Yeah, of Toshi's, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so what? So okay, so then you met Pete at the same at 68,
I met Pete in the St. Gregory's Church.
right?
In I think
68 or
then,
something, right? Yeah.
and he, Toshi introduced me up on stage. She never introduced anybody in her life, and she never.
Yeah,
after that,
Toshi introduced you to Pete.
no, she introduced me on stage, and Reverend Kirkpatrick from the Civil Rights Movement introduced me to Pete.
Okay.
We went down civil rights movements down south, down there, to Shreveport, Louisiana, and Mobile, Alabama, and I think Selma, and those places. I ended up in the news front page. I think one of the big newspapers with Pete, and but we would go down there, I think, each year, and then I got on Broadside, and I got on the Sing Out, and I got on all kinds of stuff, but with Pete, and I was very proud, to be with Pete,
Yeah. All right. So you were close and really like part of the family for like decades.
Yeah, and they're just always to the end,
You always
50
stuck with
years,
them.
I think 50 years.
You always stuck with Pete and Toshi
Yeah.
and the family and the kid and everybody.
Yeah.
You were like part of the family. I mean, like,
I think, that let them tell you that.
Well, no, Tina told me after Toshi passed on that they
Oh.
wanted to legally adopt. She told me this,
Wow.
that they wanted to legally adopt you. That's how they felt about you, because you didn't have parents, and they became like your family, like adopted family. And but they thought about legally adopting you, but they already had 3 kids.
Yeah.
And then they decided not to, but but they did literally seriously consider it. But they considered you like their kid. That's what it sounded like. Well, I could see it too.
Yeah.
I mean, they knew you since you were like 18.
Yeah. When I was just hitchhiking, I just turned 18 too. I just turned 18,
Yeah,
in the end of May.
met them. Yeah. So, so I mean, I became friends with Pete too, but because of you. But the thing is that you knew them much more than I did because you knew them for decades. So
Yeah.
what is your like? Because people who are going to watch this have never met him. What would you say? What was he like as a person?
Well, okay. I said something to Bob. It blew his mind. He loved it. But I said, Bob, why are you so nasty to people? I says, you're not so nasty to them, but you're kind to me. And he said something really it blew my mind. He said that you're very real. You're very you're the real deal. You're really honest about what you say. You're not a yes person. You're very you know
You didn't put it.
you're
Well,
very
I'm talking about. Once you're talking about Pete, but you're talking about Bob too. So Bob, you didn't put him on a pedestal like everyone else did, right?
right, exactly. And
You
and I
didn't put him
didn't.
up there like because he is famous.
Right, right. I mean, there were things I would tell him, like John Wesley Hardy. He said, "What'd you think of John Wesley Hardy's album? The album that he just put out." I said, "Well, the only great line on there was, the businessmen they drink my wine, plowmen dig my earth, but none of them along the line know what any of it is worth." I said, "You took that from Woody Guthrie." He laughed his head off, but I said, "That's the only great line." He says, "All the rest is commercial stuff that nobody's going to remember anyhow." So I said, so he knew that I kind of like was very
You're
real.
just very real with him. Yeah.
I didn't really, and then we talked about the spiritual, and one of his songs came on the radio. I think um, I don't know which one it was. Very famous song. But I think like a Rolling Stone, it came
Yeah.
on. I think
Yeah.
during the Kettle of Fish. Yeah.
Okay.
And I says, Bobby, you didn't really write that song, did you? I don't think you really. He says, hey man, he says, but I was really, he had help, and he said that, that spiritually he had help. And I said, yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
spiritual. He says,
Yeah.
but he felt that he'd been unplugged, and then that word came very famous from after that. He felt very, that the spirits unplugged him. He felt he I think believed. I think he still to this day believes in the Holy Ghost and good spirits and that ghosts exist and they helped him, you know, but they unplugged him because he no longer was for the civil rights, So that was very important, and I agreed with him. I said I definitely agree with you on that. And so it was very heavy conversations I had with him.
Mhm.
Um, it's just you know, it was very heavy.
Did you
So
ever play with him in the apartment or something? Or
we were on. Yeah, I played with him, and he loves some of the songs that I wrote. We made love at Alan's house. David will tell you about that. And then
Alan
I played a
Ginsberg?
few other places with him. But at the Channel 13.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Channel
Yeah,
13.
and then I had a good talk with Sarah, his wife. She didn't like it. She didn't like Allen Ginsberg.
Okay.
She did not. She did not. She liked the whole mess of people that were, that Dylan was hanging out with. I think it's one of the reasons why she broke up. A lot of people don't
Really?
know that. Yes. And but we had some very good talks I had some very good talks with her. So.
So you met him when he was married to Sarah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, he was already met. Yeah. Okay, because in
Yeah.
the
I met
movie,
the kids. I met the
it's
kids
before.
too. All
Oh, you
those
met.
people.
Okay. Oh, you did up in
Yeah.
Woodstock.
Woodstock and also in the city.
Oh, okay. Oh, so they lived in the city and Woodstock.
Yeah, they live in 94 in McDougal Street. You
Okay.
know.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of things a lot of people don't know.
Right. I didn't know that either. You never told
I
me.
can
Okay.
reveal it to you, but it's
No,
just
I never knew that either. Okay, good. Okay. Oh, so you used to run into them in the city.
what it is I lived, the history of the village.
Yeah.
I got to meet so many people, Denver, many people, John Denver, a lot of people I met that would shock everybody. And I was just very fortunate that,
That you were
that
there at that time.
again the Holy Ghost, the Holy good spirits are the ones that guided me into that.
Hmm.
And I told Bob that, and he agreed with me. He says the same thing happened to him too. He
Yeah.
felt, yeah, he felt he had help.
Yeah.
You know, there's no doubt about it. You know,
Yeah.
and so Richie Havens recorded a song of mine called "The Indian Prayer." You know,
Right.
and
Yeah.
Tom Pacheco and I wrote it, and we worked on it. Uh, Tom recorded it later, Tom Pacheco,
Right. Yeah. And so
and
or
so
Richie re-recorded the mixed bag too.
yeah, mixed bag, and they still record it. I mean, they
People are
played it.
still playing it. Well, it was Pete's one of Pete's and Toshi's favorite songs of yours.
Yeah, and then 2 years ago, I think they on the finals of the horse
Yeah.
show in
Right.
Nebraska,
Yeah.
they opened it up with the Indian prayer and closed it with the Indian prayer. I think
Right.
Michael Murphy did that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so
Yeah.
let's talk about Pete. A little bit more about your. I know you. I mean, with Pete, it was like a really long-term relationship.
Yeah. Many
So
things.
what? Huh?
There's so many things about it. I mean, I'm
I know we
getting a
can go
book
on and
together,
on and on. I
and I
know.
know you know about it and all that. So I'm getting a book, slowly, uh, what really happened.
All right, so let's just talk a few stories about Pete. Like, I don't know,
Okay.
think about some. Just tell me, like, I don't know, for my audience, a little bit about Pete as a person.
Yeah. Wonderful. It's a saint.
Yeah.
Pete was a saint. No drugs, no drinking. A very family man. Uh, Toshi, Toshi and Pete were very much for the civil rights movements, very much into human rights, helping the poor. Pete was not into, these big corporate people. He tore that. I seen it. He tore a $200,000 Mitsubishi, I think, check.
Oh yeah.
They wanted to use his name, and he tore that. He could care less.
Yeah.
So I think the thing is with about Pete. I was very fortunate because everybody trusted Pete. I mean, Pete was the center of all folk music.
Yeah.
Everybody could trust him, and
Yeah.
he could get them out, their names out. With Donovan, so many people. With Dylan, with everybody came
Well,
out.
He helped so many
Yeah,
people.
yeah, because he was the most honest. He was the most trusted. He was the most, person that would help you, and he would do just, um, you know, um, concerts that were, for not for money. They would do, you would just
He
he
did a
would do
lot of fundraising. He did so many fundraising.
fundraising. Yeah, yeah. And a lot of people were surprised at that. When I told him, I said, no, everything he does is fun for fundraising. Clearwater and helps out, and they were so wonderful that he and Toshi in '66, I think, started the Clearwater
Right.
revival,
Right.
and he got bigger and bigger, and then I got to live on the boat. So
But
then
tell
on
people what that is. Not everybody knows about the Clearwater who are going to watch this.
the Clearwater, we would go up and down the river to every town and protest against the sewage systems going into the river and the garbage dumps next to the river. And then what happened was they finally in
Talking
1970.
about the Hudson Valley in New York. That's
We're talking about the Hudson Valley up and down the river with the sloop. And what had happened in 1972, they passed the Clean Water Air and Water Act bill, and because of Pete and because of a few other people, because of this, and I think they created a stamp for Pete later on down the road, about maybe 2 or 3 years ago, because of this. He was such a major help to cleaning up the river. And we did in Madison Square Garden, on that, on that map.
my 90th birthday party. Pete's
Yes,
9th at Madison Square Garden. Yeah.
and the natives clearly stated, what a major help he had been to cleaning up the waters in the Hudson River and all over the whole entire nation. I mean, we are, and people don't know that the reason why they have clean water in rivers now is because of Pete. They don't know that. They have no idea that's where it all came from.
Uh-huh. Right.
But I lived on the boat.
Right.
With Don McLean and with Alan, all
Mhm.
these people. It was
Alan
very
Anapo or something. Yeah.
Alan Annable, yeah. Alan.
Yeah.
And so Don, and everybody. It was just like it was quite a.
Well, you lived and worked. I mean, you worked. You lived and
Oh yeah,
worked.
I loved it.
You were working. Yeah.
It was my life. Yeah.
Yeah.
They let me, Pete and Toshi let me live on it.
Yeah.
On the rig, and I was avoiding the Vietnam draft. They couldn't
Right.
find me.
Yeah. Yeah.
They couldn't find me at all. They
Yeah.
didn't know
Right.
where I was.
Yes, you were protecting you. I
But
know.
it's so strange because uh, living on that boat. But going back, Richie Havens invited me to the Woodstock Festival, and I went there the first day, and I told him I had to get back to the Clearwater, and then somebody was driving back, so I only stayed one day, and I said, "Oh, it's going to be more concerts," and I ran into some of the people I knew with Richie Havens and
Yeah.
Eric. He was a
Wait, we're having tech
bass
issues, Ron.
player. He couldn't get it.
Okay.
He was the bass player.
Wait, I can't hear you. You're frozen.
Mindy, you went
Okay.
off.
What?
You got it? Huh? You went
No, I
off.
can't. I can hear you now.
Okay. But anyways, I had to get back to the Clearwater. I was at the Woodstock Festival, and it was so important for me to. So that was one of the most important moments in my life, and then I got to ride back and went to the back roads, and we got and I got the train. I think the Hudson train back up to Beacon.
Yes,
I was
he
so
went
tired.
to Woodstock Festival concert the first day. Right.
Yeah.
Only day. Okay.
And I got to see Richie and Arlo after and those people, and then what had happened was that I swear to God, it was like the next morning I got up and there's this incredible UFO just hovering over the water, and it was very close to the like 100 yards to the Clearwater, and it was just a silver disc, just like boom, it flew off when I got up and I was looking at them, and they were close. That was most amazing moments in my life.
Wow.
On August 18th, I think, 15, 16, 17, 18,
Wow. Oh, that's really interesting. You never told me. I never knew about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there anything else you want to say about Pete or your relationship with Pete or Bob?
Well, I mean, there's so many things,
There's so many. I know.
I can go on and on.
Oh, I know. You can talk all day.
I don't think you want me. You don't want to ask that question. There's a whole
No, I know.
book.
There's so
That's
many
a
things.
whole volumes of.
No, I know. With Pete, definitely with Pete, because you knew him for so long and you had so many different experiences and friendship and work.
And with Bob too, you'd be surprised, So,
Was there any key moments you want to mention before we wrap it up?
Oh, okay. Well, I think again, I think people have got to know if they really want to know about Bob.
Yeah.
That he basically just abandoned the civil rights movement. He wanted to be, the greatest songwriter in the world, and which I think he did accomplish.
Well, he's a Nobel Peace Prize winner. Yeah.
Yeah, the Nobel, which Allen Ginsberg was the major person in the poetry world to influence him. I had asked him, I said, how do you two guys connect? I asked Allen and Bob. And amazingly, what Allen Ginsberg did was the most amazing thing. He got up. He says, then take me on a trip upon your magic swirling ship. My senses have been stripped. My hands can't feel to grip. My toes too numb to step. Wait only for my boot heels to be. And it was just amazing. My work amazes me. I'm branded on my feet. I have no one to me. That was Alan that did that.
But that was based on Bob's song.
Yeah. Bob was heavily influenced with poetry. That's why he hung out with Alan.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It was Allen Ginsberg that was his major main. They should do a movie on that alone.
Okay.
It was fascinating, and I got it. You know what I mean? Why they were together.
Oh, okay. Huh. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, there's so many things that I could tell you about all these people that I was with, but I think the thing is that Bob was mainly obsessed with songwriting.
Yeah.
But he got out of he wanted to be a party boy, and I told him that. you know,
You want to be
and
a party boy?
yeah, he didn't want to be in the. He even said I don't want to be singing "Blowing in the Wind" all my life, you know. So I knew he wasn't for the civil rights, and I told him that,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay. Yeah.
and that's what.
We got frozen again.
Yeah, that's what really broke Pete and Tosh's heart
Okay.
when he abandoned. Yeah, because they were in a movement, you know,
Right.
against the
Exactly. Right.
corruption of Nixon's regime, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
and that's, you know, because they were so corrupted, the United States government, you know, so and then now, you know, with
All
Trump,
right. We're not going to go into it now. We're not talking about
yeah.
it. Okay.
So
No.
but it was a whole big thing with the Vietnam, you
Okay.
know,
Right. Yeah.
and I refused that. And so the thing is that I was very fortunate, you know, that I didn't go into the Vietnam War,
Right.
and I was very fortunate
And
to,
you were protected. You didn't go to jail.
yeah, and thanks, you know, Jimmy Carter for excusing all of us draft dodgers,
Yeah.
you know,
Right. Exactly. Yep.
and some of the news articles came out of me with New York Times and also with Los Angeles Times, you know, so
Right. Yeah.
about that. And
Right.
so, but I thank Pete for making me aware of the corruption of the United States government at that time.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and we had protested in the monument, and they tear gassed us there. I'm in Nixon's movie, actually, on the real deal.
Right.
but
Yeah.
but we were always on marches and everything,
Yeah.
and
That's great.
it never stopped. And I was always with Pete, you know,
Yeah. All the way
working
through. I know. Yeah.
on the
That's great.
anti-nuclear demonstration. We did the anti-nuclear, you know, you know, it was amazing, but we were doing the longest walk to Native American
Yeah.
Indian with the A movement,
Mm-hmm.
and from San Francisco to Washington D.C. And I said, hey, how about I spoke to Ishibashi, you know, the Buddhist monks. I said, how about we go from San Francisco to United Nations on the anti-nuclear, you know? And we thought of that in the apartment. And I called Pete. I said, Pete, this week we got a great idea. I think it's a great idea. And Pete loved the idea. And we did it in 1982 in Central Park. And it was super successful. Millions of people came. And
Yeah.
then England did it in 1983. They followed our
Right.
format.
Okay. Okay.
And
Oh, the
so,
other thing is, it's Martin Luther King Day Monday, and
yeah.
wasn't Pete involved with him?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Okay.
definitely. 100%. He went down there, and they made the song really came famous with "We Shall Overcome," you know. And 100%. I talked to some of the people. I worked with some of the people who worked with Martin. Some of the people there. We talked to Harry Belafonte about it, and you know, and I was with them down there. You know, the people who worked with. He had just been assassinated in '68,
Right.
and I came after. You
You
know,
came right after, right?
yeah, and so it was a very sad situation. It was very, very devastating, you know.
Yeah.
And I worked with James Bevel, who was one of the 7 people that he was with. You
Yeah.
know, there were 7 people that disciples that Martin Luther King had, and James Bevel was one of them. So I got to work with them and him and Pete and everybody
So
down
you
there.
were part of that
And it
down
was
south.
frightening. It was very, very frightening. We had to live in Baptist churches down there. You know, we got to be careful with buses and all this stuff. You know, you couldn't really walk out alone because get a cup of coffee or go out and they'd probably kill you, you know.
And
And
then
a
you
lot
were
of things
doing that
happened.
right that same year. It was like right after he was killed, right?
Yeah. So it was like
Not that far later.
frightening. Yeah. It was very frightening. It was very frightening times down there.
Yeah.
But, you know, I wasn't, you know, I was willing to, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so, um, so for, you know, Martin Luther King, you know, and, you know, it's so heartbreaking, you know, to see, you know, what's going on today, you know,
Right. I know.
and among our native people and Leonard Peltier, and we're still in, you know, a mess, you know.
Yeah, so
And
Leonard Peltier, a lot of people may not know who that is. So you
yeah,
mentioned a few times. So explain to them really quick, and now we got to wrap it up. But
well, they illegally, the United Nations passed was it an act that you couldn't take political prisoners away from other nations, and of course they illegally did it because Leonard didn't think they would win the case, and they did win the case because they didn't show their badges. They were shooting at at Jim and families. It turned into they woke up and real fast, and the
you have
whole
to
thing.
explain. The police were on a reservation.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
they went
right.
into the camp. Yeah, they went into the camp, and what
To the
happened was
reservation. Yeah.
but they really pinpointed it was they felt that Nixon wanted to start a fight to get rid of the AIM movement, and they did it, and they finally they had their chance, and two FBI people were killed, and Leonard said he was protecting his family just like everybody else.
Right. So AIM movement is American Indian movement.
The American
That
Indian
was in
movement,
the
yeah.
early 70s.
And I went there with Floyd Red Crow Westerman. We sang together, and Bob Dylan loved Floyd, and Floyd could he played the chief on Dances with Wolves.
Right. I was
Yeah,
a good friend of yours and Dylan. So you had a mutual friend. Yeah. And
yeah.
Floyd. Yeah.
We sang together, and wrote songs together,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's just like it was pretty intense, and so it's just like.
So anyway, Leonard was jailed many at that
And he's
time.
been jailed ever since.
And
The
how many years is that?
FBI wanted to get back on, they wanted, revenge. And they've got their revenge, but they still you kill a policeman or an FBI, that's it. They have this code where, they won't let somebody loose. They'll try everything to because you killed
So Leonard did kill a policeman?
No. Leonard didn't do it. That was the whole thing. But Leonard, I think what it is, Leonard wouldn't tell who killed the policeman. That's what I think.
Oh.
That's what Floyd told me. Kind of like
Floyd told you. Oh, so that's what happened. So he didn't do it, but they blamed him.
But he was protecting his family.
Right.
And so was everybody else.
Okay.
And it was the policeman's fault for chasing Jim Little Eagle into the camp and shooting at him for stealing some red boots or something.
Who's Jim?
Jim was the one they were chasing. That was the one they were shooting at.
Was he a native?
Yes.
They said he stole a pair of boots.
Yeah, he was in a truck going down the road, and then they went after him.
Oh, okay.
And he drove into the camp.
Okay.
And what had happened was he drove into the camp. They went into the camp, I think is what happened.
Right. Yeah.
And shooting at, and all of a sudden the gunfire started all over the damn place.
Oh wow.
It was a big, but they won the case. I worked with Bill Kunstler, Charlene Haynes, secretary, and I was kind of like the go boy, in between, bringing messages in New York City, letters to offices and everything.
Okay.
On that, but Bill Kunstler, and they won the case.
Okay.
And then after that, then they took Leonard illegally from Canada, and the UN got furious with that.
Oh, he did. Oh, that's right. He went up to Canada.
So that's
escaped to Canada, and then right.
And then amazingly, John Scheer had told us that Bill Clinton told him that they were going to release Leonard Peltier, but then the FBI did a march in front of the White House, and it scared Bill Clinton, and Bill decided not to do it. And ever since then, everybody's been afraid. All the presidents have been afraid to release
Leonard.
That's the real reason. And I called, Kevin Sharp, his lawyer, down there to let him know, but Kevin didn't answer. So it's hard.
Pete tried to help too.
And then Pete also tried to help with our natives with the PBS, with David Horn and them, David Cole, they shut us off.
Well, they
You know,
go
on
explain
CBS.
so you okay, so we have to explain to the audience.
Yeah,
So for Pete Seeger's I have to wrap this up. Pete Seeger's 90th birthday at Madison Square Garden. Pete asked you to sing. He wanted
Yeah.
just you to sing, but you
Yeah.
wanted Native people on stage
he
too.
wanted me to sing the Indian prayer, and I says, "Well,
Yeah, the Indian prayer, but you
I
wanted
can't
to
do
bring
that."
your-
I told him I can't do that, and he said, "Why?" I says, "Well, no, because I don't speak for natives, and
so you
they
wanted
speak
your
for
other-
themselves, you know." And he says, "Well, what do I have to do?" He says, "Well, you have to get the elders, and then you also have to get the well-known natives, you know, such as Joanne Shenandoah and Bill Miller and Teokas and Goatshorse and
David
all these people,
Amram.
Margot Thunderbird, and we should invite David Amram because he's been such a great help to our natives.
Right. And then
And that's how it all happened. It really happened that
Chief
way.
Orange Lions.
Orange Lines we got and Eddie Benton and Vern, from the Hopi.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so the thing is that they did their opening. We opened up the show that way when we sang the Indian prayer. This is the first word.
Right.
And then they shut us off.
And then you're talking about PBS.
So what we did was we wrote a letter. That's my handwriting again. We wrote a letter to them with Pete's.
Pete.
They put us on for a little bit, and then when Pete died, they shut us off again.
Right.
And now Derek Jensen,
right. Yeah.
K-E-R, I think. Jensen, J-E-S-E-N. Derek D. Yeah, he's the one that put us back on, and we're back on YouTube now.
Right. Okay, good. All right. Well, anyway, Roland, this has been really interesting to hear because some of the stories I didn't know.
But I got more stories.
I know, but I can't. It's okay. So I know that you have tons of stories. But anyway, this is just a short little interview here.
Yeah.
Just to give people an overview. So anyway, I know you have many stories to tell. But anyway, so thank you so much for spending your time with me on my show today.
Yeah.
And
I thank you for helping me,
Yeah.
I thank you very much for,
Thanks for your help. You've saved my life too over the years. You've saved my life. I've saved yours.
We've helped each other.
Helped each other a lot over the years. So thank you. I always thank you. I do.
And through our marriage years, so it's a really, really.
We were married. If anybody's still watching at the end of this, anyway. You're my husband. We're still friends. Anyway, we've been through a lot together.
Yeah, and we're still working together, and it's just beautiful because
you're
really into it, really, sincere about helping out, and making this world a happier place.
Thank you.
And that's what's really important.
Yeah.
And Pete loved you because of that. Remember that one time he bowed down to
my car,
your bug,
our car. Yeah.
Yeah, our car. That was so.
He liked all my colors and everything.
Because he got
it again. So anyway, thanks a lot. And I'll talk to you later. Bye. It's called the Smile Bread.